Please to call the meeting. Oh, thanks, Jay. I always forget. Please to call the meeting of Morris Brandon's Go team to order at 3:31 p.m. Oh, Kim's waiting to be let in, Jay.
I got it.
Okay, she's got her. Okay. All right. So our first order of business is to call roll. Kim, are you on? You want me to call roll?
I'm on.
Okay.
Just so you know, I have to be somewhere. So Ashley.
Yeah, I can take notes or someone.
Well, Ashley Mathis, I think, was gonna take notes.
Okay. Awesome.
I'll be on my phone still, but anyways. Okay. Call to order. Let me write down the time. Okay. Jay.
Present.
Chris.
Chris is here. He's on mute though.
Okay. Sorry. I can only see.
I see him. I see him trying to come off mute.
Here.
There he is.
Here.
Sorry. Okay, now I can see everyone and change my view. Tiffany.
Tiffany is not on.
Okay. Myself. Miss
Oh.
Moses.
On.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Ashley M. I see you. Did the bus come?
It did not, but I tracked it down and
Ashley, are you 1040? Are you 1040?
I am.
I
Yes.
talked to transportation. It's a sub driver. That's kind of what I'm on the phone with some parents and stuff. So the driver's still doing their routes. You can come off mute and tell me as soon as the girls have been dropped off, okay? Because I'm trying to let people know.
I got them off. I tracked it down and asked them if I could extract them off.
Okay.
So we're all good.
All right. You're
Okay.
good. I'm glad you're good. Got about 50 minutes.
Ashley Scott.
Tiffany
Here.
just jumped on too.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Tiffany. Anna,
I'm here.
Miss Minock.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, or we have everyone.
Okay, great. The team is only going to be able to take action if the quorum is present. And Kim, you just confirm that a quorum is present. All right, so our first order of business is to approve the agenda. It was emailed to everyone and it is on the screen here. Please take a moment to review. Are there any changes to our agenda? All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
The only thing, Ashley, I'm sorry, is is anybody able to give a cluster advisory meeting report?
I don't think they've had one, did they?
No, they
I don't
didn't.
think we have one. I know I missed the first one, so I don't know. But we may just want to take that off if you need to. That's the only thing.
Okay, I'll take it off.
Okay. I think the next one is going to be between our third, like in between the next two meetings. There's one coming up.
Okay, so Kim will take that off. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Moses. A second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? All right. Kim, you got all that? Everyone recorded? All right, we are now going to review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes were all emailed out to the team members. Are there any corrections from the last meeting minutes? All right. Can I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ashley Mathis. A second?
I'll second.
I think that was Tiffany and I don't know who else. All right, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, please say nay if you're opposed. Any abstentions? All right, we are now going to move to our discussion items on our agenda, which is the budget feedback presentation. Principal Bland is going to walk us through our proposed schools draft budget. And then after the presentation, we're going to have a discussion about how the budget aligns with our school's strategic priorities. And as a reminder, when we review the budget, it's important to focus on how any adjustments from the district recommended funding support our school's goals. So it's an opportunity for us as a Go team to give feedback and ensure that our school is making the most of all of its resources. So, Jay, kicking it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. Shout out to our teachers who get to school at 7 a.m. and are still here. Shout out to our teachers who were working till like 9 o'clock last night, because some of them are in leadership programs. So long days, but it's all for good stuff. Let's begin. Thank you guys for reaching out. Several people on the Go team had individual budget conversations with me. I know I met with Lena and Hannah and Ashley and Ina, and I talked to Chris, and I met with Kim. So it's really good to have these kind of individual just touch bases with me to kind of ask more questions and when you feel comfortable and probe a little more. So I think that was all good stuff. I'm going to go through the slide. I'm going to tell you it's a ton of slides. It's just a lot today. But it doesn't have to be like a super long thing. There's just a lot of little things I want to point out that they give us the slides. I populate them and I pretty much stick to them. So ask questions, make sure that our budget is aligned to our strategic priorities. Many of you all, a couple of you all reached out with some really good questions yesterday. And nothing like sending those the day before the Go team when I'm at a principal meeting when I can't even answer them. No, I'm just kidding. But I like those questions and I put them into this presentation. So we'll have a chance to kind of review those. And we'll go from here. No official votes or anything today, but this is going to tee us up for our next meeting. All right, we know our agenda. Make sure that you understand the norms. All right, here's the feedback presentation and discussion. Here we are. We are down to budget choices. That's a fun one. All right, so we've done data, strategic plan, budget parameters, and strategic priorities. This is our roadmap, and we're almost to the end of it for budget season. It comes and goes quickly. All right, here's the process. We're in step 5. The next thing I'm going to do is go to our cluster superintendent for a review. And I have my staffing conference where they say everything looks good. And after my staffing conference, I come back to get it voted on by you all. We actually have, I think, one more meeting in between those two for feedback on this presentation. I believe we have a meeting. When's our next one, Ashley? Is it when we come back? Let me just look.
It is March. Let me just.
February 27th. So
February 27th.
That February 27th one is like not necessarily required because this is the allocation. Then I take it to Go team and then we vote on it.
I don't think we have that on. I don't think we calendared that yet.
Good.
I think we just talked about it.
We were waiting to see if we needed that one. I have it as a setup meeting, like on Zoom, but maybe Ashley at the end, we can decide whether or not we still want to meet that day. And again, I'm totally fine just to meet, open question. We have a Go team meeting. We answer questions, poke holes, and move on with it. Doesn't have to be long, or we can just meet individually. But we don't necessarily have to have that next one.
Okay.
And just know after my staffing conference, which is February 25th, then I'm allowed to start hiring for next year. Okay, so we can start posting positions and going that route. Okay, just go ahead and read some of this. I don't like to read slides out loud, so I'm going to allow you guys to just peruse them. I'll give you a little overview, a little Cliff's Notes, a little chat GPT. Then I'm going to be showing you the updated slides from the template. So the last Go team I met with, I showed you all of our staffing slides on how it was given to me. Now I've edited those slides and I'm giving them back and I want you all to see, okay? We want to make sure that it's supporting our needs and our budget functions and our increase in revenue. And one thing I will tell you that we continue to hear from Dr. Johnson is a return on investment, okay? That we are no longer, we need to show returns on our investment. And Brandon has a large investment. Leave it at that. All right, here's our investment. We need a return. The return would be 80%, right? Okay, I don't have to go through this slide again, but that's our investment. That would be the return. Give me another 5% growth. Now, a little bit of that is this year, right? That's this year, because that's what we need this year. But I'm confident that that our return on investment will come and look even better in our years ahead. 5% increase in 1 year is hard, challenging. We did it last year though with reading and math, 70 to 75%. Here's our rankings again. If you remember, prioritize them. All of them are important. Make sure you know that ELA and growth is number 1. Math is 2. Forgot the Y on that. I'm sorry. Science and social studies is 3. Then all of our special ed students making gains is 4. Keeping our staff is 5. Professional learning, meaningful trainings is 6. Making sure all students are growing at the same rate is 7. Signature programs and 8. Family engagement 9. Student engagement 10. And culture is 11. Some of our students on here. Okay, this is something that I just put together that basically just says why these are our priorities. The why this was not a slide when we did our priorities, I'm not sure, but let's just review them really quickly. Why do we want our students to ensure they're reading on grade level as pertained to the ELA? Because we need 90% of our students reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. In case you don't know, there's a big state recognition for schools that are reading at 90% grade level by the end of 3rd grade. And we didn't get that this year because we were at 89.6. Okay. And they didn't round us up. So we want to be at 90%, of course. Okay. CCRPI readiness, that tells us we get a lot of points for students reading on grade level. And then we want our kids to lead choice-filled lives, right? Increase student mastery in math. We want them to be 80% by the end of the year. Why do we want our subgroups to make academic progress? Because CCRPI subgroup flags, we've talked about those flags and what they are and what those targets are. The readiness category calculates their growth and how they compare to like students. We want to make sure they're all growing. Remember science, we didn't do that great. That would be the one area where we didn't hit our flags last year for 5th grade. And I said equity and progress, right? If all students are growing, that's equity. Okay, we don't want to see one student group growing more than the rest, not proficiency growth. Keep going. Why do we want our special eds to make yearly gains in literacy and math? Because nearly 12% of our school is special education now, and special education makes up a CCRPI subgroup flag. That means that we have over 15 special ed students in grades 3, 4, 5 for reading, math, and science in 5th grade. So we have 15 in 5th. Increased staff engagement and retention. Success is measured in retention. We want to keep great staff. We want to build our Gallup engagement and create leadership roles out of the classroom for our teachers. That's one of the reasons how we do that. Why do we want to build capacity in all of our content areas? House Bill 538 we talked about, right? Dyslexia, new reading laws, readers are leaders supports. We have that new position this year. We're getting a new ELA adoption next year, which is something we can discuss if we have a February 27th meeting. Might be prudent. Talk a little bit about that ELA. Hear your thoughts. And then we want to continue to support teacher training, right? Important science of reading. Put that word in there. Systems that increase academic emotional growth. That's in our mission and vision. If you read our mission and vision, it's ensuring that all students get where they need to be successful. That needs to be in there, continued growth and achievement. Building systems to resources to support IB, PYP, DLI, and gifted. Here's the data. 30% of our support our 30% gifted learner growth. That means that 30% of our school are gifted learners. We want to support their growth. 30 to 35% of our school is DLI, right? We want to support their growth. And 100% of our students are IB learners. So we want to support their growth. And then we want to create environments to engage our families. I have some good numbers around this. We got some great survey data back. I shared with our teachers today. Create welcoming and affirming environments. Make sure our families feel a part of the school. Engagement equates to success. If you know anything about Gallup, Tiffany back in. Gallup measures staff engagement. The higher your staff are engaged, and it's not just the good teachers that come to school every day and teach and go home. It's the stuff they do to show their engagement. And when your staff are engaged, they bought into the work, and we're all headed towards that same direction. And overall, engagement is our goal for our staff. Last two, opportunities for student engagement. We want to give students ownership of their learning. We want to reflect our student opinions in this panorama survey that I have the data for. Got some good feedback from our students on there. And build culture, right? Continue to hire in-house for key positions, right? We have great teachers in our building. We don't have to go outside of it for them. Any questions on these priorities and why they were ranked this way? Okay, good. All right, go ahead and read this turnaround programming, signature programming kind of funding process. Read this. Ask me if you have any questions. We talked about zero-based budgeting last time a little bit, working your budget upwards. So I'm just going to let you read it. Allocates funds based on program efficiency and necessity rather than just their history. So no item was automatically included. So that was signature programming and turnaround. Okay. So we had to propose some requests that I'm going to talk about today. And it looks like I'm going to prepare and discuss those proposals and rationale with you all today. Keep going. All right, they want me to start with signature programming funds. So just want you to know that I requested $311,940. Those came in the form of 2 world language teachers. Okay. What I had to do for world language was I justified the fact that we have to be a proficiency model for IB and we have to get a certain number of minutes in language. So I leaned on that to give me funding for those 2 teachers. I asked for $8,000 for IB dues because that's every year we have to pay that. And then I asked for another $40,000 for programming supplies and professional learning and resources. Well, the good news is they gave me the money for the teachers, and that's really all I needed. So we got the teachers. I don't need the rest. We're going to work through that with other means. So they gave me at the back end. I had to abolish two world language teachers and hope that I got funding for them. And I did. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited that we will have foreign language continued at Morris Brandon. Any questions around this? We don't get turnaround funds because we're not a turnaround school. But any questions around zero-based funding for signature programming? This was minimally impactful.
So this page, Jay, is not driven by, a student count times a weighting factor. This is a different sort of source or funding mechanism.
Yep, and all I did was basically look at how much they gave me the past couple of years, which is right around that $300-something thousand, and I tried to duplicate that. What I will tell you though, we're already in good shape with our budget. So this was minimally impactful. I was able to, we would not have been able to do what we wanted to do, funding the 2 world language teachers on our own budget. So it is helpful. But they were already on that budget template when I opened it up, and we were already still in the green. But having outside funding for those 2 world language teachers has now allowed me to open up 2 other positions. So yes. Hopefully that made a little sense, but there's no formula for this.
No, it does. Thank you.
And just so you know about signature programming, this is kind of one of those sticking points. So North Atlanta gets the same amount of money as a school like Morris Brandon does, and they have 2,600 kids. So the big pushback on signature programming is, can we get a formula for schools? How do you get more money? And I just know that's kind of been a sticking point in the past. Yep, I'm going to keep going though. I have people joining, so I want to make sure I'm letting them in. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's talk about our proposed staffing and non-staffing. This tab right here is going to tell you exactly what I would like to do next year. We're just going to read this. This is a lot of slides, but I'm going to walk you through it. Not the most important, but just remember that we have 4 columns. So you're going to see what I earned from the district. If it's earned from the district, I have to match that allocation. So I have to make sure it's actually going to that. Funded is kind of what I've funded it for. Staffed is what I've staffed for. And the difference is just going to tell you that difference. These are not the most meaningful slides to you, but they wanted us to include them in. And I'm happy to talk through them, but the last slide after all these is going to make a little bit more sense. I did go through these with you all last time, but this time it's going to be different because you're going to see a few more key positions added in, okay? Any questions so far? Do we feel good about all of this? I want to make sure that everybody's kind of being heard, but at the same time, we know we're in good shape. So let's just take a look at what we got. All right. You don't earn any teachers, okay? But this is what I'm funded for based on my budget, okay? And this is like when we talk about that base weight for the kids in first grade and how that would equal. I'm basically funded for about 8 kindergarten teachers. Okay. And that's what I've decided to staff. I'm funded for about 7 first grade teachers. I'm staffing it with 8. I'm funded with 7 third grade teachers. I'll go to second. I'm sorry. Is it A1? Let's go to second. I'm funded 7 second grade teachers. I have it staffed at 6, but there's actually going to be 2 EIP teachers on that grade level. So that'll make it 8. So technically speaking, there's like 6 people that are tagged as teachers, and then you have EIP K2. And remember, those EIP teachers help us reduce the class sizes for our 170 kids. So I'll show you where the EIP teachers are farther down. The third grade, I'm funded for 7. I'm staffing it in 6, and that is correct. But one of those other 7 are probably going elsewhere because we don't need any more than 6. I'm sorry, third grade needs 8 teachers, so that's fourth grade. I'm funded for 7. I'm staffed for 6. They have 6 teachers. They have 2 EIP teachers that are in there for third as well. Fourth grade only funded for 4. That's our smallest grade level. I've staffed them at 6, so they'll have 6 teachers, and that's exactly where they need to be. And fifth grade is funded for 5 teachers. I have them staffed at 7, and they'll have 2 EIP teachers on that grade level. Not a ton you have to know about this. We're going to talk about, remember, the idea is to have our class sizes anywhere between 18 and 22 from kindergarten to 5th grade, most likely less. Okay? Have questions, let me know, but just kind of keep looking. 2 art teachers. I've got a couple music teachers, got a couple PE teachers. And I've got a world language teacher. I have 2 of them. And look at that, gifted, right? I was funded for 8.5 gifted teachers. And I'm going to, next year, we're going to staff for 2 of them. Okay. So the difference is 6.5. We only had 1, but remember, our teachers are also certified. So this is a solely gifted teacher. So if you're talking about one change you're going to see on here, this is one. We're going to keep rolling down here. I earned an ESOL teacher. I have to staff that. That's 1 English speaker of other language teacher. I earned 4 special ed teachers on this line, interrelated. I staffed with 4. So this is the funding they're giving to me from the district. I got a special ed lead teacher. I have 2 autism teachers. Okay, let's keep going. Special ed school funded. You'll never see this anywhere else but at Brandon. Okay, so I've staffed a 0.5 school funded special ed lead teacher. Okay, to help with our special education population. 8 kindergarten paras that I've earned, and I've funded 8 of them. Okay, so we have 8. Keep going down. I've staffed a couple with this one. That's a para. I'm going to have just a random para position next year. I'm going to talk about. This is another one. That's a PE para. That's actually one of our current employees. 1 principal. Don't need any more than that. It's the most expensive position on this entire sheet, in case you're curious. It's true. Elementary APs, I'm staffed with 3. Okay, funded for 2, staffed with 3. Moved one of them to an AP this year. Got a program admin, school secretary, bookkeeper. Don't have any of those though. I'm looking at the staff. So I'm funded for 1, but I don't staff those. School clerk, I have 2. Right now I have a 211 and a 202. I'm turning them both to 211. I'll talk about that as we go. A little bit more staff for 2 counselors next year. That's new. Just showing you that. Not funded for any. Staff for 2 of them. Readers or leaders coach, I got 2. Got staff for 2 media specialists. I'm staffed for 2 nurses, 1, 2, LPN and an RN. And I'm staffed for a signature program coach 202. That is DeCarlo. Yeah, IB. Okay. All right, here's our world language teacher. One of them. It's a signature world language teacher. I got a social worker. I got 2 SST intervention specialists next year, so that is new. 4 custodians, 1.5 psychologists I'm staffed for. School resource officer, there's 2. That's new next year. Got 2 site managers. That's new this year. Okay, keep rolling. I got a pre-K and a K-pair. That's special revenue. Let's talk about this slide. This is going to make more sense. These are the changes. I've difficulty seeing the very top of the slide because Zoom cuts it off for me. So hopefully it says changes to the budget. Let's talk about positions that I'm creating. We're going to create a 4th and 5th grade teacher position because we're growing. Okay. So we're going to have 8 teachers in K1, 2, and 3. All right. 4th grade, they are actually going from 7 to 6, but believe it or not, I'm actually creating a teacher position because some of those were EIP teachers that I've shifted around. So they really only have like 4 technical 4th grade teachers, and I'm creating another one. And then we'll supplement that 6th teacher with an EIP teacher. So I'm creating 2 teacher positions. These are new for Brandon. So we're going to another 5th grade teacher and another 4th grade specialist in SST intervention. I'm creating that role. So that's Miss Little's role. She handles a K5. Now we're going to split them. So think about how that aligns to our strategic priorities. I'm going to staff a paraprofessional. The reason being is because we have 2 in-house substitutes that are lifesavers for us. That position is being done away with by APS next year. So I'd love to save one of those full-time subs that we have, and see if I can create a position for them to help support subbing at Brandon. I have money for it, so I want to create my own in-house sub. I currently have a school clerk that's 202, and I want to turn her to 211, give her a few more days, a little bit more money. So we're not abolishing the person, we're abolishing this position and to fund this position. The first time in the history of Morris Brandon that I know of, we're getting a second counselor next year. Okay. So now we'll have a counselor in both buildings. And for the first time since I've been here, we're going to have another gifted teacher next year. So that's going to be someone that can help with phasing out of this collaboration model we talked about and beginning to serve our students more directly, a little bit more pull out, a little bit more touch base with our teachers, a little bit more support. If I had to go through the biggest concerns and requests from parents that I've had over the past 7 years, it would be for SROs, it would be for a gifted teacher, it would be for a school counselor. And if I had to hear from teachers, it would be a SST intervention teacher and homeroom teachers. If I had to kind of encompass all of that into one sheet to show you, there's no secret that really everyone is sort of getting what they need for next year. Okay. So I want to open this up for questions, and I got a lot more slides that I'm going to continue to answer questions on. So poke holes, ask questions. Tell me if you feel like this is going to be aligned to our strategic priorities, or if you have any questions around where this funding is going. The last thing I want to say is this does not include money that we have in my substitute line, which is $121,000, and does not include money that I've put into my materials and supplies to kind of get me through the year, which is $50,000. Okay, so I have that in there as well. And then we're going to talk about my $200,000 reserve that I can get 15 days in the school year as well in just a minute. So there's a lot of money to be had. So ask any questions you have if you want to, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if we feel like this encompasses our priorities. Thank
Jay,
you,
I saw, sorry, hi. Hey, I saw the slide where the funds that you requested for our signature program.
Yep.
There were some that weren't, approved.
Yeah.
But the money that we were given, it worked out that we
Yeah.
were able to.
We are lucky to have a
Okay.
community and foundation that can help fund a lot of this. So foundation would most likely cover our IB dues and any professional learning that we need anyway. I would not use $40,000 of our materials and supplies to send teachers to IB training. So we are fortunate enough to be able to get those means elsewhere. So we are in great shape with that.
And on the same thing, I saw on the funded, I think there was one, and we staff one for the 2 signature world languages, but is it really 2?
Let's see. You saw one on there, right?
Correct.
That's a great question. And it's because one of them is funded through signature programming and one of them might be a world language.
Okay.
Here's world language 1 through 5.
Now I see.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
See the 2?
Perfect. Yes.
All right, so those are French only, not Spanish, but Spanish is still on there, but not listed as a world language 1 through 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. That's actually, hold on, maybe it is on here somewhere. I want to find that. Signature world language teacher. That's that one. One of them is a signature world language teacher, probably Spanish, and then we have 2 world languages on the other one, so that's all 3. The key when principals get these is that we want to make sure that every staff member is like listed on here. You know, like we want to make sure everybody that was on our roster this year is on here, and then some. So I have to go through the staffing tab and just sometimes make sure that everybody's named. I didn't leave anybody off. So that's a good call out. Any other
Greg,
questions around this?
can
Yeah.
you let Kim on again? She had to switch over to her phone in a minute. She'll be trying to get on again. I think this looks great. I'm really excited about, I think it's a good, cross section of needs. I'm like really happy we had the money and funding to, get all of these roles. So
If we meet on the
thumbs up.
27th, I can have a spreadsheet that just kind of outlines what the grade levels will look like with their homeroom numbers. I realize I did not do that for this year, and going through the other document and kind of explaining who's EIP and who's not can be confusing. So when we meet on the 27th, if you're okay with that, it could be a quick meeting. I do want to show you kind of how just staffing on one document looks. Hey, we have 8 teachers in K, 8 in first, 8 in second, 8 in third, 6 in fourth, 7 in fifth, what those class sizes look like, DLI, non-DLI, then our counseling and everything else down the road. Didn't have time to prepare that for this one, and they didn't ask me to, but I do think that would provide some more clarity too on some of that. Okay, keep rolling because we have some more stuff to get to.
I echo Ashley. Like it's great. We're getting so much of what we want and need. On the fourth and fifth grade teacher ads, that represents 2 homeroom teachers, right?
Yes, that's 2 homeroom teachers, 1 in fourth, 1 in fifth, newly created positions. So yes.
How many students, like year over year, is the projected increase to be? And what I'm getting at is with those add of 2 homeroom teachers, does that reduce the average class size, like per capita? I guess if you're adding like less than 50 kids, or conversely, if we're adding more than 50 kids or so, does that per class
great question.
Go up on average?
Great question. I'm trying to find the staffing tab, which let me see if I can find it really quickly. It talks to you about how many kids are on each grade level. Because I want to be able to show you that we have a large 4th grade class that's rolling to 5th, and they require that 7th teacher and what that will look like. Chris, I don't think it's on this PowerPoint. So if you can be patient, I'm happy to prepare that document and share it out with you all after this, and then we can review it the next time so you can see the class average sizes.
That's good. You get the spirit of the question. It's like, I'm curious, with all the different specialists, which we've wanted, all those types of folks, like, is making those choices meaningfully influence like average class size or not really? Like we may be able to get the best of all worlds, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can answer that. It'll make more sense when you see it. The average class sizes should typically be the same, 18 to 22, 18 to 20 across the board, and any one of those grade levels because of the increase in teachers. But I will say, Chris, you bring up a good point that you can't keep having more kids and more class sizes and more teachers without thinking about where those kids go during planning periods, right? So you have to think about PER music. Those are the only specialists we have, okay? So I can't have 8 homerooms that only go to PER music. So we have to think about who's the 4th teacher that can teach them, because with 8 homerooms, we split our specials in half. They do 4 and 4, right? Typically, we've been doing this year we've gotten by with putting French and Spanish and some of those large grade levels like K2. But now what we can also do, when you have another counselor and you have another gifted teacher, those teachers can take double specials. They can help with some of the specials lifts, not every day, but we have an idea that a gifted teacher could do our innovation lab on Wednesdays and take kids. The idea is that all of these people directly serve kids. Our new counselor may need to be a specialist in K2 and take classes, So those are dual positions that can support our kids, but also take classes outside of the homeroom. So it's just something else to think about. All right, keep going. Feel free to ask questions, poke holes. I appreciate that. So I want to go through the non-staffing tab. I just talked about this. This is my allocation that I'm going to get 15 days into the school year. We were only projected at 888, which was surprising because we had an influx of funds, which is great. I love that because we finally got funding for 4th and 5th grade students. We got our money for gifted learners. We have a large school. So we have a large amount of money that could potentially come to us if we hit 888 students. Right now, we are at 897. So we're already over that number. I wasn't quite sure how they projected our school because we actually were 5 less than we were last year, and I just don't see that. So I'm really confident we're going to be able to get this reserve. So we're going to have to talk about what we're going to do with that in just a minute. But I do want to show you that I've got about $43,000 sitting in our materials and supplies. I always say about 40,000 can get you through the year. It can go a long way, especially with the supports of a foundation and other areas. I had to put our security grant down here. We know that that's going to go, zero eyes and lighting and fencing and just more security updates because we're going to continue to get that. So I have a line item for that. But really, this is the non-staffing tab. I don't need to put stuff in all these little buckets because if it sits here, I typically can just buy it. Like if media specialist needs something, I buy it for them. Just wanted to show you this. Any questions around the reserve, which I'll talk about more in a minute, teaching other supplies or the security grant? Okay. They've given me 19.5 in stipends. We have that covers leadership team. That covers little stipends that I want to give teachers and so forth. So that's exciting. I have $120,000 sitting in subs. You might think that's crazy, but it literally is an entire salary in subs. And we're going to need more than that because what happened is the teachers got those pay raises. So we realized that subs cost more money now anyway. So I'll talk about the reserve and how we're going to support subs, but also if I can create that para position we talked about, we can have an in-house sub. We can have an in-house sub too. Hourly, I have an hourly cafeteria monitor that we'll pay this much for 3 hours a day of cafeteria duty at PC. This is the most well-spent money on this entire document. I want you to know that. Jeez. Hey.
While we are sitting here, my script says that we should be making sure and thinking about if these proposed budget items support our school's strategic priorities. So,
Bus
gander at
1040
that.
dropped off. I'm nice curious. Bus 1040 is finally dropped off.
Everyone? Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple of things to think about. The difference between priority strategies, request, and amount. Okay. Just kind of going through some of these required slides. All right. So, what's the top say? Somebody read that to me. Something breakout. And I'll have to stop sharing my
Full
screen.
year 26 strategic plan breakout.
All right. Okay. This is what I'm doing. Priorities. Ensure students are reading on grade level. Here they are. Here's my strategy. This talks a little bit about why I'm creating those teachers. So this kind of walks you through the decision and what it's costing us. Okay. I tried to lump them by our strategies. You can see that if we want students to read on grade level, increase their mastery in math, make sure our subgroups are growing, we need somebody to help manage our intervention in NPSS, that multi-tiered system of supports. Mindy is stretched very thin K-5 in 2 buildings. So we're going to create another position where we're going to move a teacher leader into that role, who's also going to help with coaching teachers. Okay, that's important as well. And that's going to cost me that amount right here. Okay, a little bit more than a teacher. All right, I want to create a paraprofessional to support one of the abolished in-house substitutes. All right, try and keep one of them in the building. That's how much that position costs. I want to abolish the 202 employee for a school clerk. That's 211. Right? That really is about a difference of $6,000 that you will earn more, right? A lot of this is about good faith in supporting our teachers who have done great work and giving them what they need to continue to stay at Brandon, right? to want to be here, to keep our high 30 employees, our high functioning employees. I guess I'm trying to think of great employees. All right, build academic systems that increase academic growth. Create another counselor position to support students' emotional and social growth. This was in one of our strategic priorities, emotional growth. Okay, counselor, $155,000. Let's do it. This is the year to do it. Go year to year. Last thing, build systems to support enhanced IB, PYP, DLI, and gifted collaboration. Collaboration is gone after next year. Okay, so we're going to have somebody who can help support that for our teachers, for our students, our parents, as more and more kids come through and become gifted identified. And then also one thing to think about is the gifted testing is a lot. And it takes away that one gifted teacher for a long time. So having two will be very helpful. And that's the cost of that. It's almost like it's a teaching role. Okay. Any questions around the priority strategy request or amount? Because this is directly aligned to our strategic plan and directly aligned to this right here. So you should have seen justifications for all of these 6 or 7 positions on this tab right here. Okay. You can see how they are aligned. All right, here's our budget by function. Just kind of tells you like where all the money is going and how much per pupil it's costing. All right, so we have 85 and a half people. FTE is one full person that constitutes it's a certified employee, so not a paraprofessional, not a custodian, not a cafeteria worker. You're talking somebody who's like a full-time teacher, art teacher, music teacher, French teacher, homeroom teacher, intervention teacher. Okay. And those people that are on that certified employee scale. So we have 85 and a half. That's how much money is going to them. That's how much it costs per pupil. Pupil services, those are the ones that directly serve our kids, probably our social workers and MTSS is under that. Counselor. I think last year we had some questions around some of these positions. So this is a good slide to talk about and how much money that's costing the budget per pupil. Improvement of instructional services, MTSS, probably, right? How much that's cost, 2 of them, budget, how much that's costing per pupil. Media specialist, admin, right? Admin's a lot. It's a lot. I get it, right? We feel like our admin is overweighing or taking up more than our school needs. It's important for y'all to understand the rationale behind that and to manage 2 buildings and 2 schools and 900 kids. And nothing in transportation. So it's totaling 113 people of a budget of $13,654,986, and it's costing us this much per student. Okay. This is an increase of about $3,000 per student. Somebody brought this up in the last meeting, but when we went through and looked at the budgets and the per pupil expenditure of a lot of these schools, Brandon and North Atlanta, the largest ones, were some of the lowest spending schools at around $12,000. Well, let's increase that. Let's spend more money on our kids. Okay. What you're going to see is now schools like Brandon with their per pupil going up and a lot of other schools, their per pupil going down. Budget by function is here, a little pie chart. The good news is 75% of our school is dedicated to instruction, dedicated to hands-on teacher learning. Those are people that touch our school, that touch our students. Okay. You don't want to see school administration like all the way around. What is 9% of our budget? Okay. All right, couple questions. I'm gonna let you read this, and if you have questions or want to comment or come off or just share your thoughts, we'll take about the next 5 minutes. I have 3 of these slides. Okay. The good news is, go ahead,
I was
Moses.
just going to add something for, because I know like there are a few of us that are teachers, but I think that paraprofessional that's going to be able to support like the long-term subs, while it supports teachers, it also so much supports instruction because they really do become like so ingrained in Brandon to where like teachers can leave plans that they can actually do versus like, a random sub that might come in. You never know what they're going to have access to or things like that. So I think while that's great for like teacher retention, it's also just great for like our students, their peace of mind and their instruction to continue even when a teacher has to be out. So just wanted to like lift that for people who are not in the classroom necessarily seeing that every day.
Good to hear from the teachers on here. The last one talks about trade-offs. And I got to tell you, there's not a ton of trade-offs here. There's really not. The only trade-off I saw was at 202 for 211. But, that's the only position that's really being abolished. We're just increasing more. But if you feel like there's a position that needs to go in lieu of a newer position, that these are the time to kind of voice that. Okay. All right, think about the district and cluster priorities, graduating students, college career and life. Okay. There are misalignments in people's budgets. I mean, there are. You're not going to see it in our budget, but there's competing priorities in some schools where people sometimes want a swimming pool and start a swim team. And there's people that are adamant about that. Middle schools and high schools have a lot of requests and budgets. And, elementary, I feel like we are very aligned with what our kids need in our school and community. It's not always like that. But, we want to make sure that we are also falling in line with the district's expectation and what they want us to be doing. Okay. Did the district allocate signature program funds for us? Yes. Do we know how they're being allocated at our school? Yep. Everybody should know 2 world language teachers to support our students. Okay. And if we're sharing a staff position, how will this affect student support? Does anybody know if we share anybody at Brandon? There's only one person we share, and that's a 0.5 CELT that I split with Dobbs Elementary. And we fund that from the school budget. So she can come in and we can have one CELT in one building, that's a special ed lead teacher, and one in the other building on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. So I have to work that out with Dobbs Elementary that we both fund half of her salary. Okay. I had some really good questions, so I wanted to just read them. Question number 1, is there a year-to-date budget to actual comparison for this school year that compares the approved budget versus where dollars are actually being spent? And maybe with comparison to the strategic priorities. I thought this might be helpful if available and perhaps show current year alignment of spending to strategic priorities budget as we go into the budget. This person must be a finance guy, I got to tell you. Great question. Okay, I actually reached out to Go Team office on that. They did say that budget can send me a report that talks about this. One of the things to think about is that the year-to-date actual spending. The amount of money that I spend is actually pretty limited on a year-to-date. Remember, I only have about $45,000 that sit in that materials and supplies. Everything else is really in salaries. It changes a lot as the year kind of comes and goes. All of a sudden, I might get an influx of salary, or I actually had a special ed teacher this year that I was paying for out of our budget, and then all of a sudden, they got allocated. I earned that, and they just gave me the money. So, it's a little wonky sometimes during the year, but I can work on getting a budget by function or expenditure for this year for our next meeting if you want to kind of see how we're spending our day-to-day dollars. But it's not going to be much different than what I'm showing you on here because the bulk of our $13.5 million is staffing, and that's how that money is spent. Only about $40,000 to $50,000 is my day-to-day budget, and then my reserve, which we know how that was spent. But if you want a little bit of a different breakdown, I think I can work on that for you. Okay. With the benefit of higher student weights that was previewed last Go Team, what are the broad strokes of how we are going to allocate those incremental resources last year and keeping those priorities? Great question. We know we finally earned funding for 4th and 5th graders, right? And what are we creating for our 4th and 5th graders? A teacher in 4th and a teacher in 5th. But also that funding gets spread across K-5 in our entire school. Because even when 4th and 5th were not getting funding, we were still staffing them adequately the last couple of years, kind of pulling from other grade levels. So the good news now is that we can use that 4th and 5th grade funding to even create more positions for our school in the form of counselors, gifted, and even another 4th and 5th grade teacher. So hopefully you can kind of see that increase in funding for those 2 grade levels going directly back to those grades and then just our school in general. How much of the funding is federally supported? You're right that it says it's about 10%. The rest is local tax dollars. Does APS feel that the federal funding piece is looked in at least for this upcoming school year? What federally funding programs do we need to be eyes wide open about as we navigate? Great question. The big thing to know that if it's federally funded, if it's mandated, I'm typically given that money and I have to spend it that way. So they don't let us play around with special education dollars, and they don't let us play around with ELL dollars, language learners. If they staff me for one ELL learner, they have to see that I've staffed one person for that role, as opposed for me staffing 2 counselors if I want to, for example. So federally funded positions, which are things like Title IX, Title V, Title I dollars, which I don't get, but those all have to go directly and be allocated for those purposes. The most things that we'll get that's federally funded are special education dollars. So we're allocated for 8 special education teachers, and we'll staff 8, and they'll only serve special education students, and allocated for 1 ESOL teacher through those Title V language learner. The idea about the next couple of years is that the big budget deficits are going to be this year, next year, and the year after. By 2027, that 80 million in pensions drops off, and the budget gets restabilized again. Now, I'm not a finance guy, but I would hope that the budgets are do not fluctuate much over the next 3 years. They're trying to stabilize people's budgets right now. So that's why there was large gaps in people that think money that some schools lost and some schools earned. But I don't see that being a huge change next year or the year after. This was a year they're trying to stabilize and probably trying to maintain that until 2027, when all of a sudden more influx of money will come because they'll be mostly out of that deficit. Hopefully that answers some of your questions. Yes.
Jay, this is Kim. Sorry,
Kim.
I'm in the car. I didn't ask that last question, but I think the last question was not as so much related to the APS budget deficit, but just about the Department of Education going away, and things like that. So I think, I would
sense.
hope that doesn't work. That doesn't happen, but in the past 3 weeks, I think we've seen a lot of stuff happen that no one really thought was going to happen. So I think that was more so the question than the budget deficit, specifically to APS, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a big picture question I don't think anybody knows the answers to yet.
Yeah,
does anybody else want to come off or clarify or ask? You're welcome to. I don't know. Everything I've heard is that if the Department of Education is abolished, that equals more funds to the state, more money coming to the schools. Yeah. How that looks, I have no idea. I don't know how you get, that 10% of our school is federally funded, right? Or our budget, according to your training. So does that drop off? Do we not get that 10%, or does that 10% turn to 40%? I actually don't know. But that's something that's beyond my pay grade. I think APS will have to determine that. But I can tell you this: as long as I'm here, I'm going to take care of Brandon, and we're going to be in good shape. There's nothing to worry about with our budget and our school and our teachers and our parents. We're in a really good shape. But I know that we're only going to be here for so long. Some of us have kids going on to middle school and high school soon, and we want to know those answers. So those are great questions that I can try and get some answers for.
I was mostly concerned, it sounds like the 8 special ed and 1 ESOL is the federally funded Title V as it relates to us. So is there any risk that could be pulled in the middle of the year and we would have to fund it? Would be my concern.
Yeah, good question. The money's already been allocated. So if it's pulled in the middle of the year or something, we write these teachers sign contracts and things like that. So I would say that if it's on here now, we're okay.
Okay, for this year. Okay.
We're good for next year because they've already gotten the money. It's sitting in their bank account. We're looking to get it out to schools June 1st, which is not far away. I would think the big picture would be really next year, kind of really looking at how they're funding special education. If we have to come up with our own funding formula in APS, it'd be a lot different than saying, kind of what we get allocated from federal dollars. Great questions. They really are. It's important to know those Title I, Title IX, Title V. Those are all federal dollars that are earmarked for certain purposes. So good questions, though. I don't know if I have all those answers, but we can begin to dig. All right, I'm going to keep rolling. Are we good for now? Okay. Reserve is here. I told you I got that in 198 or 193,000. I can't remember what it was. I can't really see it, but it's up there. What do I want to do with that money when I get it? I have a clear plan for it. We can always talk about it because I'll have 15 days into the school year. I need to put more money in materials and supplies. So I'm looking at putting the rest of the money after I create 2 hourly teaching roles. We did that this year, and it's been great. If I can do that at the start of the year, then we can have more support for intervention kids and pull out and just student supports. An hourly teacher makes $50 an hour. I mean, it's expensive. So I mean, two of them cost over $100,000. So we typically, once the school year starts, we see where our needs are. So this might change, but I love that we found two really highly qualified, certified teachers that are retired that come into our school for 29 hours a week and help support our kids. I'd love to do that again. So I need to put more money in materials and supplies and subs as well. So I would fund the 2 hourly positions. They have to be 29 hours a week. Anything over that is full time. So that's why it's cheaper, right? And then whatever's left over goes into subs and supplies. 15 days in. Okay, the next one is supposed to be our budget approval, but we have that little holding one in the middle there, right? So just before the budget approval, just make, we'll just read it what it is, why we're doing it, and when we're going to do it. We just need to do it by March. I think our budget approval, when is that? March 1st, you said? Ashley?
Yes, the next one is
March 6th? No,
I thought it was March like 13th.
March
right?
13th, yes.
Yes.
So March 13th, which is 2 days before that approval. So I need y'all to commit to me and to promise me that if we draw it out to March 10th, that we're going to vote on the budget in a favorable way. Otherwise, we need to move the meeting up a little bit because it's going to be tight turnaround March. That's really due on Saturday. The 15th is a Saturday, but we would have to have it approved by the next day. But I feel confident with it.
Okay, do you want to do like a draft budget approval? Do you
Yeah.
want to do that?
Yes, I can. What we can do is we can meet on the 27th in 2 weeks. I could have the grade levels lined up. I could have it kind of the draft budget just kind of cleared up for you on just one single doc, so we're all ready to look at it and hopefully just all say we're good for when we come back on the 14th, 13th.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. The other option is I can send that out to you all, and we don't have to meet. You can just look at it. I'm all about less meetings, but I'm here every day. So, it's more so on y'all, really. We can ask about that maybe at the end. We'll put a little thing inside there. All right, I got my staffing conference. Oh, they're looking at it. They look at that on their own, I think. But I have my staffing conference on the 25th, and then we have to approve it on the 13th. Okay, we're coming together on the 27th with just the draft budget. Thank you. Interesting. I don't know what that slide was. Something like that didn't pop up there. Okay. That's all I have, everyone. Good news all around, and I'm happy. And I'm going to tell you, I've been on Go Team. I've had Go Teams for 7 years. This is the first Go Team meeting that I feel like we can leave and like people can be very happy in our school with our budget. So people get excited when they start hearing about gifted teachers or counselors or MTSS. We tell them it was a Go Team decision and that you all advocated that for our students. When people asked for SROs and all that stuff the past 7 years, it never really came about because the money wasn't there. But now it is. So we're in a good place, and I'm excited about what's to come. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Ashley.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Jay, Principal Bland, for sharing this information.
Jay.
Yes, and just wanted to see if there were any other comments, feedback. Do we want to have another meeting, or do we want to just review via email?
I can email out the staffing document so you can see the homeroom numbers with the class averages with our new positions created with just a little bit of a dollar amount, kind of what's on there just to make sure that everybody understands what that is, or we can meet. So I'll just let somebody.
What do you guys think?
I'd be good with just an email.
I'm good with an
Leave
email.
it to the team. And I wanted to give just homeroom teacher perspective. I'm really happy to see not only more homeroom teacher roles to keep those upper grades, smaller, class size smaller, but also the support roles. So many of those support roles that are just super important and just helping, our homeroom teachers, day in and day out. That's super helpful. So really, really happy with the proposed budget.
Awesome.
And I second that for sure. Excellent presentation, Jay. Everything is aligned with the strategic priorities, and concerns from the community or things that would be nice to have. So excellent job on that. I did have just one question. Is there any concerns with the higher classroom sizes in the lower grades, specifically the DLI classes sit at the max capacity? So I was wondering for the like first and second without paraprofessionals, like is it any concern there or?
Yeah, that's a great question. DLI gets staffed a little higher. They're at 25 and 25 in K, which benefits the other 6 homerooms, right? Because they don't quite have as many. But we also know the trade-off is at the upper grades. When they get to 4th and 5th, I can't put new kids in there. And by 5th grade, they've got 15 to 17 kids in their class. Giving a Spanish speaking para in 1st grade is a great idea. I love that because they're still in kindergarten and they're still young and they still, not kindergarten, but they're still young. Like they're still like coming out of kindergarten. And we always did have one in 1st when I first got here, but we weren't able to keep that person. We did supplement that with that language lab support and was able to get a teacher that can kind of help with their language and support. But I would say that if we want to advocate for a para, for DLI, we can advocate for that for the para that I'm creating, or we can advocate for that with that reserve money that I have coming in. And we can see where we are with our class sizes, 15 days. And if we feel like we want to get a Spanish speaking para, which is sometimes hard to find 15 days into a school year, but you can do it, that we could reallocate those funds for that. But I think that the teachers have not expressed concerns. Bivings and Hernandez have never had a para. So I think that concern that I used to hear about that has kind of gone to the wayside, but it's a good point, valid point, because they have more kids and they're learning another language and they're still very young. Anything else? So it sounds like if everybody's okay with it, I will email out our staffing plan. The idea is that you all approve it and you look at it and we're good. So when we come back on the 14th, we vote. Okay? The 13th, because it's due on the 14th. All right.
All right. Good deal. Okay, a couple announcements. We do have an announcement from the Go Team office. So declarations for Go Team elections are open until February 28th. And I know some of us are still deciding what we're going to do here, but we need both Jay Wright, a parent, and then a staff, correct? I think that's right. So if you're interested, you know of anyone who would be a good fit, please direct them to apssstrongschools.com to declare their candidacy. And another meeting
guys, I have to go. I'm so sorry. I have to run upstairs. Okay, so I'm just
okay. So just quick plug here for the IB information night with NAPS on March 11th as well, 6:30 at Garden Hills. I don't know if he's turning us off or turning himself off. Okay.
What happens at that? What is that actually? What happens
so the IB is put on by the North Atlanta and it includes the coordinators from the high school and then the middle year and the elementary, really kind of focused on the high school experience and how it's a differentiator for college admissions. I had parents, college grads from like Morehouse, kind of talking about their experience. So encourage everyone
and current students.
Yes, exactly. So that's going to be 6:30 at Garden Hills. Wide, we'd love folks to come and get the word out. Does anyone else have any other announcements?
We have the art show coming up April 2nd.
Oh, great. Where is that, Miss Jordan? Is it at both campuses?
It will be only at the primary campus gymnasium, and it'll be pre-K through 5th grade.
Okay,
and it'll be 5 to 7 p.m. April 2nd.
Okay, awesome. Great. So I think that's the end of the agenda. Anyone else have any additional business? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Just had one I have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
if anyone is interested in joining a committee for PTO next year, please
Oh.
fill out the form. It is due tomorrow. So if you have any interest in joining any committee at all, go ahead. You can check the B-mail. The link for the form is in the B-mail from this week.
Perfect. And hey, this is Stephen Smith. I had one question that I was advised that the Go team would be the proper route to kind of ask the question, and I'm not sure if this is the right format to ask it, but have uniforms for the school ever been kind of proposed or thought about or considered, or I'm just curious if that's ever come up as a inquiry.
So I don't believe this meeting is a public comment / question forum, but what you can do is email Jay and he can get it out to the team here.
Awesome.
Where
Thank you
as
so
Go
much.
team members, we just kind of receive feedback and commentary. We don't answer questions. That's really kind of a Jay and leadership role.
Perfect. Thank you so
I would
much.
start there. Yeah. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the agenda? Or sorry, adjourn the meeting.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Minnock. A second?
Second.
I second.
All right. Thank you, Ina. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Ashley, just for Kim, meeting is adjourned at 4:37 p.m. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.